Summer draws closer, so does the start of hurricane season. With us today is Scott Schablum, spokesman for the Florida Department of Health in Polk, to discuss some health-related challenges Polk County residents face during an emergency and a few resources available to help folks stay safe. Hi Scott, how are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right. What are some of the things people should be aware of during a hurricane?
Well, one of the roles that the health department plays during an emergency is the staffing of local special needs shelters. Along with our response partners, we provide a safe place for residents with special needs to stay during an emergency.
When you say special needs, what are you referring to?
By special needs, what we mean are residents who would be perhaps oxygen dependent or electrically dependent. Now, of course, all of us are oxygen dependent, but what I mean is they would require a special breathing machine, oxygen tanks, that they would be dependent upon those, or perhaps they would have a motorized wheelchair that they would require to get around in. Those are a few of the classifications that might dictate a person being best placed in a special needs shelter.
Okay. So would you consider these special needs shelters a first option for our residents?
What I would say is, in the case of an emergency, if you have another option in which you and your family members could go and stay safe as opposed to being in a special needs shelter, that you would take advantage of that option first. And there's a couple reasons for that, really. There's a saying that goes around in emergency management that a shelter is a lifeboat, not a cruise ship. And by that we mean the goal in particularly a special needs shelter is to provide safety, not necessarily comfort. Even though our staff are excellent, well-trained, at times space, accommodations, and general comfort levels can leave something to be desired. So the use of a special needs shelter, while we're thankful to have it as an option here in the county, would not be what I would recommend as a first solution unless it's needed by a resident or their family members. Another thing to keep in mind as well, and unfortunately we see this from time to time, is when a family member, particularly an elderly family member, might be dropped off at a special needs shelter and left unattended. I know it is hard to conceive, as strange as it sounds. If at all possible, it's important to keep the family together. Times of an emergency, tornadoes, severe weather, hurricane, these are stressful enough without having to increase, particularly an elderly member's stress level by leaving them in a place where they would be unattended by other family member.
What do you suggest for a family to do to stay safe during an emergency?
Well, the most important thing that a family can do in an emergency is to have a plan. All of us are guilty of thinking from time to time that something bad couldn't possibly happen to us. But as we know from experience, it oftentimes does. Yes. So if you have a plan in place now, you will be ready when the unexpected occurs.
Okay. So if somebody is looking to make a plan, are there any resources available for families who would like to do that?
Sure. What I would suggest, really, and it relates not just to having a plan and making a plan, but really preparedness in general. There's some great resources available. The first thing that I would do is direct people to floridadisaster.org. On the top right-hand corner of that page, what you'll find is a link that says, Get a Plan. That's a great place to start for families who are looking to prepare themselves for the hurricane season.
That's awesome. Is there anything else residents can do to help in a disaster?
Sure. While we're here, I'll mention one other thing. One of the resources that the Florida Department of Health has is a team of volunteers known as the Medical Reserve Corps. This is a group of individuals from inside and outside of the healthcare community Some are licensed professionals, others have no medical background, and their primary mission is to provide health care related to staffing support, some in these special needs shelters that I mentioned. They would be mobilized before a storm, during a storm, and even after a storm or another natural disaster to take place to provide specifically medically oriented activities and resources that a community might find themselves in need of. They also, from time to time, provide local support to community events such as parades or mass gatherings or special events similar to maybe like the Sun and Fun Fly-In we're involved with every year. And so if there are residents in the community who would have an interest in that, what I would do is suggest they visit the health department's website at www.mypolkhealth.net/MRC for Medical Reserve Corps.
All right, thanks for coming out today and informing everybody about how to stay safe during an emergency.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
And keep in mind, the goal is to inform residents of Polk about some of the health-related challenges during an emergency and give them a couple of resources to stay safe. If you need more information, you can visit the health department at www.mypolkhealth.org, or you can call them at 863-519-7900, extension 11142.